Richard Lawson, a reclusive billionaire known more for boardroom power moves than emotional vulnerability, returned home early one afternoon from a business trip. As he entered the grand estate, silence greeted him until he heard soft music drifting from the garden. Curious, he followed the sound. What he saw stopped him in his tracks. There, beneath the afternoon sun, was his live-in maid, Maria, twirling and dancing with his daughter, Lily. Lily, born with a neurological condition that limited her mobility and speech, was giggling, really laughing, as she clumsily moved in rhythm with Maria, her wheelchair temporarily forgotten. It was a moment of pure, unfiltered joy. Richard had spent millions on treatments, therapists, and custom devices, but had never seen Lily so alive, so free. Overcome with emotion, he quietly watched from a distance. Later that evening, he called Maria into his study. Expecting reprimand or dismissal, she entered nervously. Instead, Richard did something she never expected. He thanked her. Through tears, he admitted that for all his wealth, he'd never been able to give his daughter what Maria had in a single afternoon, happiness without condition. What followed changed all their lives. Richard promoted Maria not just as a caretaker, but as part of the family. He funded a dance therapy program in Lily's name, hiring professionals and making it free to children with disabilities. The video of Lily and Maria dancing went viral, inspiring millions around the world. What started as a quiet, private moment became a global symbol of hope, kindness, and the power of human connection, reminding everyone that sometimes the greatest gifts come not from wealth, but from the heart. Mr. Jonathan Hayes was a wealthy businessman, known for his relentless focus on work and a life built on structure, power, and silence. His daughter, Emma, was born with cerebral palsy. Though he provided her with every medical advantage money could buy, he struggled to connect with her emotionally. Guilt and grief had built walls around his heart. One day, Jonathan returned home unexpectedly in the middle of the afternoon. As he walked through the hallway, he heard laughter, light, carefree, and unmistakably Emma's. Confused, he followed the sound to the living room. There, he saw Maria, the family's maid, dancing barefoot with Emma. Emma wasn't just smiling, she was radiant, her body swaying gently in Maria's arms to the rhythm of soft music. It was the first time in years Jonathan had seen his daughter truly joyful. He didn't interrupt. He stood in the doorway, quietly watching, tears forming in his eyes. That moment cracked something open in him. Later, Maria feared she would be reprimanded or even fired. But instead, Jonathan embraced her. He thanked her, voice trembling, and asked how he could be a better father to Emma. From that day forward, everything changed. Jonathan began joining their little dance sessions. He spent more time at home, more time with Emma, and even launched a foundation that funded music and dance therapy for disabled children. A video of one of their dance sessions went viral, showing the world a billionaire not as a powerful man, but as a father learning to love out loud. What he did next, choosing love over pride, presence over success, left everyone in tears and reminded the world that the greatest wealth lies in moments of connection and compassion. Elliot Granger, a billionaire tech magnate renowned for revolutionizing artificial intelligence, was a man consumed by innovation but emotionally estranged from the world around him, including his only child, Sophie. Sophie, born with a rare neurodevelopmental disorder, spent much of her life in the confines of therapy rooms and assistive devices, her interactions mostly clinical, controlled, and calculated. One early evening, Elliot returned to his mansion after a last-minute business deal collapsed. Intent on retreating to his study, he was halted by the sound of music, gentle, classical, and strangely intimate. Following it, he stepped into the sunroom and froze. There, in a halo of golden light, stood his housemaid, Anna, gently dancing with Sophie. Not as a therapist, not out of duty, but as a friend. Sophie's laughter filled the room, her body leaning into Anna's embrace, her eyes gleaming with unrestrained joy. It was a tableau of pure humanity. Elliot, a man defined by logic, was visibly shaken. This wasn't something his billions had ever bought. Spontaneous, unscripted happiness. That night, he asked Anna to share what he hadn't been able to see. What Sophie needed that no medical intervention could offer. Her answer was simple: connection. What followed became a global phenomenon. Elliot funded the Sophie Project, an international initiative integrating arts, emotional bonding, and human presence into neurodiverse care. The story, captured on home video and later featured in global media, struck a nerve in a society obsessed with technological perfection. The world wasn't ready for a billionaire who admitted he'd failed his daughter, not until he watched someone with far less privilege teach him how to love. In a moment of unexpected grace, Elliot's legacy was rewritten, not by code, but by compassion. To the world, Alexander Royce was a powerful billionaire, cold, brilliant, untouchable. His estate ran like clockwork, staffed by professionals who rarely dared speak beyond what was necessary. Among them was Elena, a quiet maid from a modest background, unnoticed in the grandeur of his home. Then there was Mia, his 7-year-old daughter, bright but burdened by a developmental disability that left her socially withdrawn and often isolated. Despite every therapy money could buy, Mia rarely spoke, rarely smiled. Alexander, buried in board meetings and international deals, saw his daughter more as a responsibility than a connection. That changed one Saturday morning. He walked into the sunlit garden expecting silence, but instead found music playing softly. There, on the grass, was Elena twirling with Mia, singing, laughing, spinning in circles. And Mia was laughing too, truly laughing, chasing Elena with a joy he had never seen. He stood frozen. In that moment, Elena was no longer just the maid. She was the first person to reach Mia, not with money or methods, but with heart. Later that day, Alexander asked Elena to sit with him. Nervously, she explained she had simply followed Mia's lead: music, movement, trust. He didn't reprimand her. Instead, he promoted her to Mia's full-time companion and emotional mentor. Inspired, Alexander took it further. He established a foundation in Elena's name, focused on training caregivers in emotional connection over clinical detachment. Elena, once invisible, became a quiet hero. And Alexander? He finally saw his daughter, not as a challenge, but as a child longing to be understood. In the end, it wasn't the billionaire who changed her life. It was she who changed his. When a short clip of a maid dancing barefoot in the garden with a disabled girl hit social media, no one expected it to go viral. But what caught the world's attention wasn't just the joy on the girl's face. It was who watched silently from the balcony above. The girl was Ava Whitmore, daughter of tech billionaire Daniel Whitmore. Ava was born with a rare neurological disorder that affected her motor skills and speech. For years, Daniel had poured his fortune into cutting-edge treatments and top specialists. But Ava remained withdrawn, barely responsive, and rarely smiled. Enter Rosa, a live-in maid from a small village who had taken the job simply to support her family back home. Rosa didn't know much about medical care, but she knew music. One day, seeing Ava alone and silent in the garden, she began to hum and sway. To her surprise, Ava looked up and reached out. Day by day, the quiet dancing sessions grew into a ritual. Ava's face lit up more with each step, each spin, each note of Rosa's humming. Unbeknownst to Rosa, Daniel had been watching from his office window. One afternoon, he came down, not with anger, but in awe. He didn't just thank Rosa, he promoted her to Ava's personal caregiver. Then he shared